Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you know what? I just did that whole bit with my audio turned off. Great. Welcome.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. All right. So sorry. Introduction to Nick is a member of our Facebook group. He's been helping me out with some spreadsheets and formulas. So it's been making my life a little bit easier doing the sort of weekly videos. So I thought he told me recently that he just bought Indomitus. So I thought in this stream what we try and do is have a look at Indomitus, how you can take that into like a pretty battle ready and like a competitive force pretty quickly. So yeah, I thought it would be interesting. We got a lot of questions about how to get started as Blood Angels. So the only other thing I wanted to say is last time I had a guest on, it was very difficult for me to pay attention to chat and the guests. So if any of your questions get lost tonight, then please come and put them into the Facebook group or hit me up on like the normal weekend live stream. I have a bit more time on that. And thank you for telling me my sound definitely started the stream with a big mistake. So appreciate you guys still being here. We're all good now. All right. So Nick, thank you very much for joining me.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. So we've got a few slides here. Hopefully they're useful. So this is what we're going to be covering tonight. So the Indomitus box plus what, I guess, to make it a competitive list. And then we're probably going to build a battalion. We're going to look at specific Blood Angels units we can add to this. We're going to look at standout Marine units. So I guess units that aren't in the Blood Angels Codex. Quite a lot of people in the groups actually keep asking, like, hey, do I need the Space Marine Codex for 9th edition? Then yes, you definitely do need that. I'm going to recommend some things to buy to get you going, to hopefully bring you up to something that's semi-competitive at 2,000 points. And then I think one thing I want to say about this is I want to do this on a budget of like $200, right? Because like obviously you could spend a lot of money on Warhammer. Everybody here and everybody in chat has spent a lot of money on Warhammer. So yeah, if you're new to Blood Angels and you just want to build something that's pretty competitive for a reasonable price, then this is what hopefully we're going to get here. And if anyone gets any value out of the stream at any point, I would appreciate you if you hit the like button, because it really helps the YouTube algorithm like prioritize my videos to other people. So so the Indomitus box, I hadn't. Before I actually looked at this for you, I hadn't actually really looked too deeply into what exactly you got in the box in terms of point cost, right? So it looks like you get like a good 1,000 points in the box. So your 3 HQ, the captain, lieutenant, and the chaplain, all Primaris, of course. You get 2 squads of assault interceptors at 190 points. We have Commander Dante in the chat, so you're not the real commander anymore. I've taken your job, Commander Dante. We have the Judicar. We have the Blade Guard Vets and the Blade Guard Ancient. While I really like these guys, I feel like they're going to be really difficult to field without some sort of transport for them. We have 3 Outriders, and then we have 3 Eradicators. And there's questions today, I guess, about Eradicators. And Eradicators are going to be in like Friday's Tactics video. We're going to break down some of their maths and see really, because everybody's running Eradicators, and every weekend people ask like, Eradicator is really good. And I don't know, so hopefully after this Friday we will know. Alright, and I guess there's not too much to say there, Nick, unless you have any questions about that.
No, I mean, it seems like a pretty solid base, so definitely what I could do to take this and build up from it is exactly what you said we're going to do. Would help a ton.
Yeah, so perfect. Yeah, so it is a solid base. I'm not sure it's super competitive. The issue I have with, like, if you just bought this box, right, is far too much of you guys are foot slogging it. Like, I mean, all your HQ are foot slogging it, your Blade Guards are foot slogging it, and I guess what I mean by that is they're just moving across the board 6 inches at a time, and being the fact that our army is very melee heavy, spending 2 or 3 turns to try and get into combat, it's just not ideal for me. So, yeah, so I guess let's look at a battalion then, because I think a battalion is a really good place for anyone that's starting Blood Angels or even starting Warhammer. It's a good place to be, right? I know you can do loads of other different types of detachments, but I think the battalion gives you, if you put your warlord into the battalion, you get 12 CP, and the red units here are what you must take, right? So you must take 2 HQ, and you must take 3 troops. Anything else beyond that is up to you. And obviously, if you declare your warlord in the battalion, then you refund the 3 CP cost that cost you to take the battalion. So in a Strike Force game of 2,000 points, that starts you with 12 CP. 12 CP is a lot of CP. Especially with the new Blood Angels Codex, we have access to relics, we have access to warlord traits. I never start a game with, I want to say, like double-digit CP. Like if you have 12 CP, that feels like probably you're going to end up. I feel like you could get to it because you get 1 CP a turn, so it's 17. I feel like you could probably get to the end of the game and have CP left over. So I think starting with anything between 6 and 9 is fine. I mean, I guess with the 1 extra turn, that's like, what, 11 to 14, somewhere around that range. I think that's plenty. I mean, at the moment, there isn't really anything that we've got. Like, we had a few stratagems that cost 3 CP before that were really heavy, but I think there's nothing in the new Space Marine Codex, I think, or there's nothing in the new Blood Angels Codex that costs more than 2. So that lets you run like a powerful and a least powerful stratagem almost every turn. Okay, so so I guess if you build this battalion and you build it from the Indomitus box, then these are the extra things you could add to fill it out, but we have to fill out one other troop choice. And then you mentioned over here that you had some other stuff that was just, you bought some other bits and bobs on eBay. So these, I color-coded these as well, so you can see what these are troops, elites, heavy sport, etc. And I think some of these are okay, and I think if you wanted to use these now, we could, it's total substitute in. I mean, but I haven't touched too heavily on the extras you own. I'll leave that up to you, Nick. So I guess this video will be more for just anyone that has an Indomitus box and is looking to go forward, right? So I mean, you'll be free to substitute in. Here, I think on one of the later slides, I have an impulsor down. So if you really want to run your Blade Guard veterans, my opinion of Blade Guard veterans is they are very strong and they are very survivable. But I feel like they need some sort of transport, and their only a transport option really at the moment is a repulsor, impulsor, because repulsors are almost just too expensive point-wise to really consider. Right. 350 points for a model without an invulnerable save to me is a bit madness. I mean, you can give them an invulnerable save if you have a psyker, but you are then requiring to pass your psychic test every turn, which I guess isn't guaranteed, right?
Which means that one turn that you need it won't happen.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised at how things. Something to consider, I guess, is when you're playing Warhammer. If you don't have an invulnerable save, then it can essentially be like a no-brainer for the enemy, right? For example, like if you have a bunch of las cannons and the enemy has a unit with an invulnerable save and a unit with no invulnerable save, if you know in your head that unit will not get an invulnerable save, then you can almost make that call and be like, I will 100% shoot the unit without an invulnerable save first, because there'll be no swing there, right? Like, if you won't get any lucky saves or anything, it'll just be like, if I do my damage and I shoot no, let's say I have 4 las cannons, I can almost be like, right, I need each las cannon to do X amount of damage. Will that happen? If you take their saves out of the equation, obviously if you've got a spreadsheet, you can do that really well, but if you're at the edge of the table, being able to play being able to do abilities where there's no swing is actually a really powerful strategy, because you can just you remove one of the elements of chance, and Warhammer is a game of chance in a sense. So okay,
right.
So I think what you need to do is I mean, you could almost make a battalion straight away out of what you have here, add in one troop choice, and then the rest would be what you want. But I mean, one of the biggest strengths, or I don't know, maybe it is the biggest strength of Blood Angels, is our ability to get +1 to charge and our ability to red thirst when we charge or heroically intervene. And the second part of that is doing that in turn 3 and beyond. If you keep those key close combat units alive to turn 3 and you make your charges, then you almost, the close combat units can pretty much systematically delete every enemy unit off the board. It's just about keeping them alive to that point. But to do that, you need basically faster units that you can move from cover to cover, like jump pack troops. I guess you could sort of do that with Outriders, but their bases are quite a bit bigger. And I guess when we talk about jump pack troops, we talk about Death Company, we talk about Sanguinary Guard, and we talk about Vanguard Veterans. And maybe even Librarian Dreadnought as well. So, perfect. So let me jump on to the next slide then. So if we add Blood Angel specific units, then the death... Before I go into this, how familiar are you with all these units? Or how familiar are you with the new Blood Angels Codex?
A little bit. I mean, so I've been watching your live streams and some of your list building videos, and those have been pretty helpful. But so I'm fairly familiar with some of these.
Okay. All right, so we'll just skim them then. The Death Company are a great single damage infantry unit. I guess what I mean by single damage is they all run with chainswords, so they do like a single point of damage. They also are great. They're probably one of the strongest units that we have for actually clearing infantry. And I mean, there's two ways you can really use them. You can put them down at the beginning of the game. You can, like I said, jump them from cover to cover. Or now with the new stratagem Forlorn Fury, you can move them pre-game, so you can move them up to 12 inches before the game starts. And usually you want to use them to clear out enemy infantry. They also include like their Feel No Pain save by default, which is great. And the way I actually run these guys at the moment is I use them as basically as this. They're designed to clear out an infantry on a backfield objective. I was wondering, I tried to get a few screenshots together from some of the games I've played recently. Let me see if there was one here. Yeah, I mean this Corn one is a good example where so this was my table edge. That was the Corn player's table edge. I think you said you'd seen this replay. My Death Company, just 5 men, came down here with the sole purpose of trying to clear out this clear out his useless little 10-man cultist squad on this objective. While they didn't achieve their goal, what they did actually do in this game was make him take this massive dreadnought that was running in to kill me, have to run back to his own deployment zone and free up, this is a 200-point dreadnought, this is turn 3 or something, and it's in his own deployment zone doing nothing, right? So, Death Company, great for... I'd almost say if you can fit the 125 points for a Death Company, maybe with one special weapon, absolutely think about getting a Death Company. They're a great little unit to have, and if you want to run them in a larger squad with a character, then that's options that we've got given in the new book. Then Sanguinary Guard, so they're our strongest hitting, fastest moving jump pack unit. When I say fastest moving, they're only fastest moving if you run the Ancient with them, which at the moment I guess I don't really recommend. I think he's kind of overcosted. But a lot of professional Blood Angels players will run multiple squads of 7 to 9 of these guys. 7 to 9 seems like a golden number. It will mean you need to buy 2 boxes to get 7 or 9. They come in boxes of 5. But within the 5, you can buy they do come with a banner bearer, so you could build 4 Death Company in the banner bearer, and then if you bought a second box, you could build up to 9. I don't think you actually probably need 9. 8 of these guys will usually overkill just about anything. They have 3 attacks, so it's 4 in the charge, and if it's turn 3, it's 5 attacks. So if you arm with a few power fists, you'll have like 50 attacks. If they're next to their warlord, they hit on 2s. And if you've got some sort of rerolls on them, their absolute strength is if they make the charge, they will delete pretty much whatever they charge. However, they aren't very survivable at the moment. They have a 2+ save, but no invulnerable save, and they have no. In the last edition with the Banner Bearer, they had a Feel No Pain of 5+. Now they have lost that, so they will get killed fairly easily by enemies. Like they're essentially just 2 Moon Marines with a +1 save. But used right and used tactically, they're super strong. So I think you have to take some Sanguinary Guard. I think I'm getting a little bit of reverb on your mic. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. All right, and then
There we go.
Yep, we're good now. 5 Death Companies with Thunder Hammers to Forlorn Fury onto a heavy target. I mean, someone's saying you could put Thunder Hammers on Death Company. Thunder Hammers are a lot of points on these guys, 15 points per model. So typically, if I run them, I'll run 4 Chain Swords and 1 Thunder Hammer. I do usually recommend having at least 1 super powerful weapon in a melee squad, because it means that you can never guarantee what's going to happen in the battlefield, right? So if you end up running into a character that you weren't going to run into, if you have that 1 Thunder Hammer in there, then you just open up potential for them to actually be able to kill that character, whereas maybe a bunch of Chain Swords aren't going to do the work for you. And then, so in a box of Death Company, you could build 4 with a Chain Sword and 1 with a Thunder Hammer. That's probably what I'd recommend, but you could do 4 with a Chain Swords and 1 with a Power Fist. I mean, it's sort of up to yourself. And then another key model, I guess one that we just talked about in my video last week, the Librarian Dreadnought. He's a really powerful Psyker. He's so survivable. And I want to say that his melee is strength 12, and with +1 to wound, it pretty much means you'll wound just about anything in the game on 2s. I had him fighting some Death Guard armor last night, and the guy thought he was doing well with his toughness 8. He was like, "Oh, cool, toughness 8, you'll wound on 3s." I was like, "No, it's Red Thirst, I'll wound on 2s." It's just he's such a good Psyker, and with the ability to now make him Chief Librarian, he's very strong. And I've been running him with the Warlord trait. I think I mentioned it, Iron Resolve, to give him an extra wound, so it puts him on 9 wounds, and it gives him a 6+ Feel No Pain. And with his Duty Eternal as well, to -1 every damage that he gets hit by over 1. He's really survivable Psyker. And actually in the game last night, at one point I think he had about 10 Plague Guard. He got charged by like 2 different Plague things, and then a squad of 10 Death Guard, not Plague Guard, sorry, Death Guard, and he survived till the final turn of the game. I did heal him one time with the Tech Marine, but he took an awful lot of punishment. Really, really powerful model for 155 points. And I guess if you were, like, if I was just coming to Blood Angels and I had that Indomitus box, these are the 3 units that I would get a box of for sure.
Gotcha.
And I'd probably push the bank out a little bit and get 2 boxes of Sanguinary Guard, just because they always do work for me in my games, and I play them very defensively, and I think you'll find that if you don't play them defensively, you might not think they're worth it, but you play them defensively, use them to countercharge into enemy positions, and with the new stratagem of being able to redeploy them for 1 CP in a future turn, if you did get into hairy position, you could probably just lift them out at the beginning of your next turn and then redeploy them later in the game. So that is that's certainly an option as well. And then the one thing to say, like I said, about the characters that we get with Indomitus Box, none of them are mobile. So I just listed there's a few more characters here that I haven't listed. Like I guess there's Corbulo, there's Tycho, is that it? There's a Sanguinar. So there's a few characters that I haven't listed, and while I do own all of those characters, I just never find they hit the tabletop. So these are the characters that I've had that hit the tabletop in the last edition. Maybe at some point...
Hey, John, I got a quick question for you about the Sanguinary Guard.
Sure, go for it.
have you found that it's ever worth adding either a sanguinary priest or apothecary with jump pack to run with them to give them a feel no pain? Does that help, or is it just doesn't really make them that much more survivable and costs more points than it's worth?
Well, I mean, I have the sanguinary priest here
Hmm.
that we're just going to touch on.
Oh,
Giving them
sorry.
that's fine. Giving them the 6+ feel no pain is okay, right? I mean, I guess it makes them 18% survivable. I think the problem was in the last edition they had a 5+, so they were 33% more survivable. So 33% is they have 2 wounds. It's literally like having an extra wound, right?
Hmm.
Whereas I guess like now they have 2.5 wounds. But I mean, the priest has the ability to put them into Assault Doctrine earlier, and also has the ability to heal them and bring one back alive. So I guess I mean you can run priests, and I do see. I think in that Vanguard tactics video we looked at a few weeks ago on the channel, where the guy that wins a lot of tournaments is Blood Angels. He runs the priest, right, and I think he runs them as the selfless healer warlord, so he can do double. He can heal 2 different units. So I mean, he runs 2 sanguinary guards as well, right? So I mean, I guess that makes sense. If you want to
Okay.
run 2 big squads of sanguinary guard and you want to heal 1 in each turn, or you want to heal them both in each turn and bring 1 unit back to life, then there's definitely value to be had in there. And sanguinary priests have made it into my army list reasonably decently. I prefer the old banner bearer, but I mean, I guess a lot of people
Okay.
are running this, and it is decent. Commander Dante, again, the competitive list that we looked at last week included Commander Dante. His Chapter Master rerolls are very strong. He generally is. He's a decent choice. I just personally don't like Dante, how he has no feel, no pain. Again, in the last edition, I used to run him next to the Banner Bearer, so he had the 5+ feel, no pain. Now, without that, he just feels a little bit weaker. I mean, I guess if you have a priest, again, 6+ is decent. And I guess if you survive long enough to heal him, again, that could be decent as well. The issue I have with toughness 4 characters right now, I guess Dante is toughness 4. For example, there's a lot of meltaguns in the game at the moment. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So it depends on your meta. The meta I play in is super competitive, and the Sisters of Battle list that I just played last week, like I want to say it had like 10 multi-meltas in it, and then it had like tons of infernal pistols, right? And basically they can deep strike and shoot their infernal pistols 12 inches. So if your character is ever unprotected, they'll drop in, they'll hit them with a bunch of infernal pistols. Those infernal pistols, because they're strength 8, will wound your characters on 2s, so it's very easy, if they hit, it's very easy for them to wound, and then like you only have your 4+ save and nothing else, so you can potentially just because those the meltaguns now and the infernal pistols and that can do it up to 8 damage. You can just lose your character instantly. So I've been trying to figure out ways to get around that by running like the strength 5 chaplain on a bike. Maybe we'll hopefully. I think I'm going to mention that in a little bit, but. I mean, Commander Dante can be useful. You can find him, make it into your army list. He isn't a bad chapter master, and he may get better over time. Mephiston, again, he's a chief librarian, so he is a little bit better at psychic stuff than the Librarian Dreadnought, unless you pay the extra points for Librarian Dreadnought. And the Mephiston can synergize with some of the things that you have from the Indomitus box set. Like, he is Primaris, so he can go in Impulsor, so you could put him and a bunch of Blade Guard veterans in an Impulsor when he comes out. He could obviously like buff the Blade Guard veterans with like Unleash Rage, which makes their 6s explode, so they get more hits for every 6 you roll. So there's a bit of synergies there, but I think in raw damage output against Librarian Dreadnought, he's slightly weaker, and against high damage weapons and high strength weapons, again, he's slightly weaker than Librarian Dreadnought. So I guess if you fight an army that has a lot of small arms fire, Mephiston comes out on top when you compare them against Librarian Dreadnought. Typically, I don't take more than 1 Psyker, but I mean, I guess that's up to you. And then we have 2 chaplains that buff one Askroth buffs both our Death Company and our normal troops. Lamartus is very much a Death Company specific chaplain. Lamartus is quite a bit cheaper in points, but he only buffs the Death Company. But I mean, it's definitely an option. You can have Lamartus with your Death Company, and you can have him buff them. If he lets them reroll charges, he gives them plus to the leadership. I guess like if you were going to deep strike your Death Company, if you wanted to run more than 5, let's say you wanted a 10-man Death Company just because you thought they were a cool unit, I mean that's totally viable as well. And you wanted to almost guarantee your reroll of charges, then you could drop Lamartus in. I think if you charge the Death Company first when they're next to him, you would reroll the Death Company's charge, and then Lamartus also has a Black Rage keyword, so I think he would get to reroll his own charge as well. So these are things. I mean, I guess these are just Blood Angel specific units that if we were going to add some, then I definitely recommend all these ones on the left. I think the Sanguinary Priest idea is not a bad idea. And then I hasten to recommend any of the other ones. I'd say they're not bad. If you like the model and you really want to play with Commander Dante, go for it. But next slide, we're going to look at standout Marine units. And in standout Marine units, hopefully I'll tell you why. So Vanguard Veterans are a great squad for Marines. They have one less attack than Death Company and Sanguinary Guard. However, they wear Storm Shields, so they can be given basically a 4+ invulnerable save. This makes them like highly survivable. I like to use Vanguard Veterans in the early turns to push the fronts, basically, right? Because I know my Death Company can't stand up to fire. I know my Sanguinary Guard can't stand up to fire, whereas these guys with all their 4+ invulnerable saves can stand up to just about anything. And they'll typically be my most forward unit at the beginning of the game. They'll soak up a bit of fire. If you put them in cover, then they have a 1+ save, essentially. So on -1 AP, they still save on a 2. And again, I kind of recommend Vanguard Veterans for almost any Blood Angels player. Like, I guess some people will run 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard and a Death Company. I like to run 1 Death Company, 1 Sanguinary Guard, 1 Vanguard Veteran. I think at the end of the game, once we get that additional attack from Savage Echoes, I think Vanguard Veterans will still do out a lot of damage. I think in turn 1 and 2, your opponent's going to have something to shoot at, right? And I would rather they shoot at the guys with the Storm Shields that, like, if they survive into the end of the game, I'm almost see it as a bonus. And they have the ability to drop Melta Bombs on enemy vehicles for 1 CP, which is really powerful. I think it's just 2d3 mortal wounds if you make a hit roll. And you can use that on any model in the unit. So if you've got one model with a chainsword, you can just say, you have a couple Vanguard Veterans with decent weapons like Thunder Hammers or Power Fists, and you have that one chainsword guy or a few chainsword guys. One to take the wounds on. I don't know, are you familiar with taking wounds on the cheaper models?
I think I've heard you mention that once before.
Okay.
It's nice to just have them to keep your stronger models alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, my Vanguard Veteran squad, I ran one this week, so it was 3 Power Fists, 3 Chainswords, and Relic Blades on the Sergeant. And it was basically so that the first 3 dead guys in the squad are the guys with Chainswords, right? Like, because they are literally the cheapest models, and you just, in some cases it might even be nice to have guys with, I think Vanguard Veterans can actually be armed with 2 chainswords, so you could just actually arm them with 2 chainswords. Chainswords are free, you get 2 additional attacks from the chainswords, and those models are really low cost, like you're talking like 22 points per model, so where an enemy shoots, you just say, well, I'll just lose that 22 points per model. You just have to be aware if you do that with 2 chainswords, then the ones without chainswords won't get invulnerable saves, and you can't take the invulnerable saves like on one that doesn't have, and then pick up another one off the board, right?
Makes sense.
But yeah, so I'm running them all with Storm Shields, except the Sergeant, because the Sergeant will die last, and my Sergeant holds an Infernal Pistol, again, to just do some sort of crazy damage, and you can shoot the Infernal Pistol in combat, and you would think with all those Storm Shields they'll survive at least 1 round of combat, so I'll get a chance to shoot my pistol for a potential 8 damage in close combat range. So Vanguard Veterans, well, we'll see at the end, and then you can decide what you want to buy. The Inceptors right now, the Inceptors are quite a strong deep striking unit, especially the Plasma ones. With the ability now to +1 from Descent of the Angels, Inceptors can shoot on 2s. Anytime you shoot a squad more than 6, you would get maximum number of shots because each gun is only 3. So if you shoot any enemy squad with more than 6 units with your Inceptors, you'll be making 6 attacks per guy. That's if you take the plasmas. I think if you have, and we need to check the stats for the Hurricane Bolters, but I think Inceptors are generally, they can do almost a similar role as the Death Company, right? Drop down behind enemy lines, try and clear an objective of enemy units to swing those victory points. And then, I guess the 2 troop choices I recommend at the moment, it's really strange, right, to me, because at the beginning of 9th edition, everyone's super excited about Assault Intercessors, and I'm trying to run Assault Intercessors in every force, and I was losing, I don't want to say I was losing every game, but I was losing at least 50% of my games. Quite often you'd end up with a unit of Assault Intercessors sitting on an objective doing nothing, not able to shoot because they're not in range with their 18-inch pistols, and even if they do shoot, 5 18-inch pistols is never going to kill anything. So the full boss troops, well, I mean, maybe you can maybe get one lucky pop shot at something. So your full boss troops, which are your infiltrators and your incursors, both have huge strengths, and what's nice is they're the same box, right? So if you buy one box, you could literally make 5 infiltrators and 5 incursors. And these are troops, so they'll sit in your objective. Both of them have concealed positions, which means when you deploy them, you don't need to deploy them you don't need to deploy them anywhere in your own deployment zone, you just deploy them wherever you want. So these guys can basically start on midfield objectives if you want. And then the infiltrators have a 12-inch bubble, so nothing else can be within 12 inches of them. So if you deploy first and you want to put 5 infiltrators in the middle of the map, then it just means nothing can deploy within 12 in the middle of the map. And your incursors, again, very similar. They have close combat weapons where the infiltrators have the deep strike denial. And I can't recommend these guys enough. And the other great thing about them is, although they're troops, they also have the smoke screen keyword, right? So 1 CP, it's -1 to shoot them. I would imagine you want these guys in cover all the time, so they're on a 2+ save usually, because you've got them in cover, and then with the -1 to hit, you'll very, very rarely ever get cleared off an objective, if that makes sense. I think when I was losing games in 9th edition, what would be happening is I play against a player that plays Khorne. He would drop down a squad of Chaos Terminators, and then the Chaos Terminators would make their 9-inch charge into my backfield objective. I would just have like a squad of Assault Intercessors in there. They'll get munched, and I'd lose 5 VP. My enemy would get a 5 VP swing, and then I have to, at that point, I'm halfway up the board. I need to now turn around a unit and try and get back and get those Terminators out of my objective. Sometimes that would take a whole turn, sometimes it might take 2 turns, and it was like, at that point, that swing has lost you the game. Doesn't matter if you wiped him elsewhere on the map, you've lost the game because... So I can't recommend these guys enough. And I was going to say, I took some... These pictures are of a couple of games. So this is a game... This game was on my channel where I had an infiltrator squad sit in this objective and an infiltrator squad sit in this objective. And these objectives, these little things are 3 inches. So if you think 9, 12 inches is almost out to about here. So you have 2 massive circles there where we're just saying he had a big chaos drop pod, and it was just like, yeah, your drop pod just cannot come anywhere near my side of the map. And another time here, again, even though I'm not on my objectives, this was another game against Necrons, and again, the infiltrators are just on the edge because these Necron characters can teleport a squad of 20 Necrons, and these 20 Necrons have a 12-inch range, and each one shoots twice. They're strength 5, -2, I think, Gauze Reapers or something. So if he teleports those 20 Necrons within 9 of whatever unit you have back here, you've lost that unit, right? It's 40 shots at -2. And it's strength 5, so he's wounding on 3s. So you need to take about, 25+ saves. You're not going to make 25+ saves on a unit of Assault Intercessors or even Intercessors. You've just lost your backfield objective. Whereas if you have Infiltrators, and I guess these Infiltrators played super defensive in this game, and they would be very exposed if you, I want to say he went first, but my first turn I just move into this objective, I'm so exposed, there's no cover. I'm able to smoke screen, right? So like that smoke screen basically would keep those things alive and also stop him deep striking in. And I think another game, so you can see here the infiltrators are now in a line here. And the reason they were in a line is so that he couldn't come in at that board edge, because again, 12 inches, like it's just such a long distance of range, right? So this was the game against Sisters of Battle. He had about 5 or 6 deep striking squads. Zerafin, like 4 squads of 10 with power swords. If they charge you, you're just dead. There's no two ways about it. And again, the infiltrators are sitting on the sides, and I guess these guys in the tank are screening out the middle. So it's just like there is nowhere he can come in. Yeah, I mean, like you can see how much of my stuff I have left on the board, and I think he's just got some stuff under this building. Like he has nothing. Like it's just like anywhere he came in, he just wasn't able to make charges or do. He had 4 10-man squads that they needed to make their charges, and they just couldn't. So these guys, I can't recommend them enough. I talk them a lot about in most of my streams. I think heavy intercessors, someone's mentioned in the chat, are heavy intercessors going to be useful? I think heavy intercessors are going to be really useful. Again, they are Primaris, so you can transhuman them. And I think that the reason they're going to be useful is just the additional armor and toughness. And there's a CP you can pay to make their armor a 2+. So I guess if they're in cover, they can get that 1+ save that I talked about. So these are standout Marine units for me. Other units, maybe not quite as standout as these, are the Primaris Chaplain on a bike is a very mobile and very survivable chaplain that can be given 2 warlord traits with toughness 5, 7 wounds. I did a video on this guy like 2 weeks ago. If you have any more questions that we don't get to in the stream about any of these characters, hit me up in the Facebook group or just DM me. We'll sort that out as well. Wanted to talk the Redemptor Dreadnought. Someone said right before the stream, someone was like, money on Redemptor Dreadnought being in here. Well, Redemptor Dreadnought is here. It's very survivable for its point cost. The Duty Eternal makes a big difference. The fact it's core, meaning it can actually be used like as a mobile firing platform, and you can pay the 1 CP to give the 6-inch reroll 1 bubble, and that would affect himself, I believe. I would have to maybe double check. I'm sure it would affect himself. He is core, and I'm sure Wisdom of the Ancients affects core. Wisdom of the Ancients, yeah, it affects core. So, yeah, I mean, like, I see a lot of people running Eradicators, right? If you want to run Eradicators and make them even better, because they are really good, and I guess we'll find out more in the Maths Hammer that I do this week, but if you want to make your Eradicators even better, what would make them better? Well, re-rolling their ones, I'm sure, would make them better. So you want to have a Redemptor Dreadnought with all your Eradicators around it. Essentially, you're just going to... If you're re-rolling your ones and Eradicators normally hit on 3s, I don't know, you're up to like almost 80% chance to hit, I guess that would make it. So Redemptor Dreadnought, and again, in close combat, he's a beast. He's got like a Strength 14 Power Fist, +1 to wound again, so you're wounding everything in the game on 2s. And I think his Power Fist is D3 +3 damage. So if you end up advancing across the battlefield with this Redemptor and they don't deal with it, then if he ends up charging something, whatever he's charging, he's killing.
Nice.
The Invader ATVs, you mentioned the Priest. At the moment, those Invader ATVs are kind of solid. I didn't realise, I figured that they would take -1 to hit when they move and shoot. They do not. They just hit on 3s with their multi-melters. So, they're 8 wounds, they're 5 toughness, they're 85 points, and they have those multi-melters. So these guys can be running squads of 3. I've seen a few people in the other Blood Angels groups running these effectively in competitive games. 3 of them, as you say, with the Priest to give them that 6+ shrug, and being able to heal them every turn, and being able to hit a bunch of multi-melta shots on 3s. I mean, they have twin bolters as well, but I mean, I guess people kind of forget about that. And then I want to call out the Leviathan Dreadnought here as well. I'm going to include this guy in Maths Hammer for this Friday as well. We're going to look at both his Grav Flux and his Storm Cannons. So if you're thinking about Leviathan, I guess if you check out that video on Friday as well, you'll know what weapons to pick on him. But he's actually still one of the most survivable armor units in the game with his Duty Eternal and his 2+ save and his 5+ invulnerable save, right? So he's just very survivable. Maybe not quite as good as he was before, but he did drop 110 points. And when I looked at him recently, I think he can't be I don't think the enemy can ignore him when he's on the battlefield. You can again arm him with a claw if you want, so a little bit less shooting, but just move him, advance him forward. Basically, he will be a bullet magnet to let your jump troops go where they want to go, right? Like, I mean, I guess that's why, like, you might wonder why I'm running this, you know, like, a lot of... This super heavy list was almost like I just wanted to play this tank, right? Because I've had this tank for a few years and I've never really got it. It used to be 995 points, right? It used to be unfieldable completely. Since they've dropped it to 600 points, it's absolutely a bullet magnet. It sucks up so much fire because people are like, oh, there's a massive tank, I should probably deal with it. Meanwhile, the actual real threat is all the jump units. And I think it's the same, like, I used to, before I was running that list with the tank, I was running list with Leviathan Dreadnought, and I think it was a Leviathan Dreadnought, a Contemptor Dreadnought, and what's the other one? The Redemptor Dreadnought. So I was running 3 Dreadnoughts, and this was before they sort of retconned the core keywords, so none of the Dreadnoughts were core at that point. And again, the Dreadnoughts were just sucking up fire. Probably about the same points, you know, as the tank. I just think that I think the Leviathan Dreadnought is really good. Still can't be ignored. And then lastly, we're getting a bit of echo in your mic again, Nick. And then lastly, the captain with a jump pack or on a bike. So, as much as I love Commander Dante, I guess, we can do something ourselves with a captain on the jump pack or on a bike. They're quite common to see in the last editions, to see jump packs captains for the Blood Angels, and we can equip them with a relic weapon. We can equip them with a storm shield to get the sort of same 2-up, 4-up save as Commander Dante. They would have slightly less attacks than Dante, because I think Dante has 6 and just a regular captain has 4. However, the bike captain has +1 toughness and the same 6 wounds, and I think the regular captain, both of which these guys could be given some sort of warlord trait to basically give them like a feel no pain, or they could be given a relic to give them a feel no pain. And yeah, I just really value feel no pains. I think this Primaris chaplain on a bike this week had 7 wounds, and he's 7 wounds before he had a 5+ feel no pain, and I want to say like it was the equivalent of like 11 or 12 wounds. Like, this guy survived so well with the feel no pains, and quite often for characters I may CP armor saves, right? And I guess like CPing an armor save if you've got no feel no pain is it maybe feels a little bit less risky, right? Like, let's say you're going to take 3 wounds, for example, on an armor fail. If you fail it, your character might be dead, so it's like a 50-50 call. But if you fail it and then you know you've got feel no pain afterwards, maybe you feel like it's more valuable CP. And like I said, this chaplain actually survived on 1 wound against like 8 melee attacks or something. He was just on 1 wound, and like I made a few lucky 4+ and then made a few 5+ on the feel no pain, and he just hung around long enough to get me an extra point. And the 1 point didn't make a difference, but actually, he hung around enough to get me 6 points, actually. So yeah, I prefer these characters. And for example, this chaplain on a bike is 140 points. So he's actually 10 points cheaper than Astaroth right now. He has 1+ toughness. I think he's got 1 extra wound, and then he's just more customizable. Like, you can give him that feel no pain. So there's something to be said about you know, a character's only as good as they are if they're alive on the battlefield, right? If they're dead, what value do they get? So, and as Blood Angels, quite often, we're almost forced to get into close combat, right? Like, our army doesn't really shoot, especially like these characters, Astaroth and Lamartis. I think they both have bolt pistols, and quite often, like, I don't even think Astaroth has a bolt pistol. Like, I think he just has a crack or frag grenade. So, right, it's just like, so never more so have you been forced to get into combat with a character who isn't super survivable. So, I mean, I guess that's why right now my recommendation is make a chaplain on a bike or make a captain on a
Sure.
bike. Both have big advantages. And on my conversion table, I have both going on right now, so I wouldn't be
Nice.
wasting my time, right? If it wasn't it wasn't like I play to win, I guess. There's no two ways about it.
Right, and that flexibility, like you said, with the warlord traits, the flexibility in the characters is really quite great, and relics seems to be really great. You've got a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, do you know what? Right before this, because although my chaplain did survive this week, I was kind of having looking at like, is this the one? Farmer's chaplain on the bike. Where did I put it? I thought I put it in the smart captains. Let me just double check. Yeah, so this is the chaplain that I ran this week, right? He is toughness 5, wound 7, 3+ normal save, 4+ invulnerable save, 5++, so that's actually another plus, so 5+ feel no pain. He has the litany or the relic Crozius that gives him 3 damage a swing, 6s do mortal wounds. He can do litany of hate, so reroll all misses in melee. Litany of faith, so he can ignore mortal wounds for 6-inch bubble. Mantra of strength. So like I said, he's got 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and his warlord traits were the one that I ran this week. I had him with the adamantium mantle, so he got the 5+++, and I thought that was very decent. His one weakness, though, right, was small arms fire, because when the enemy started hitting him with -1 weapons, he was forced onto his 4+ invulnerable save like really quickly, and I didn't like that. But even saying that, like, he survived a lot. Like, I was like, if it had been Dante, he would have been dead half the turn before this guy died. Well, he would have definitely been dead in the turn. This guy honestly took like 12 wounds to bring him down. So right before the stream, I was actually looking at my captain, which I'm going to make into Chapter Master. I'm going to give him a Thunder Hammer, and I'm going to give him a Storm Shield, and I'm going to give him the Angel's Artifice, which basically means that he's got a 2+ save, and he gets +1 wound and toughness. So he's going to be toughness 6, and he's going to be wound 7. I was playing against Death Guard, who have a lot of flamers, and those flamers wound are strength 6, right? So I was thinking, like, if I play that again, then all those flamers are now wounding on 4s rather than 3s, and there was a lot of flamers, and it was a lot of -1 shots. That's what brought him down. So if I put on the Angel's Artifice, he'll save on a 2+. I'll give him the Storm Shield, so he'll save on a 1+. So when all those flamers hit him, rather than being wounding on 3s, saving on 4s, it'll be wounding on 4s, saving on 2s. And yes,
Nice.
This guy will cost 30 points more, I guess, but he'll have the same 5+ feel no pain, and I guess he'll just be that against toughness 5 weapons, he'll go to 5s to wounds. So I think, and this guy comes in 5 points cheaper than Dante. Yes, he does hit. He does have 2 attacks less than Dante, but if you give him the Gift of Foresight Warlord trait, which obviously Dante can't take, he gets to reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 save a turn. So you'll also be able to reroll 1 save every turn for free. I think this guy will be an absolute beast. So,
Oh yeah.
So recommended first purchases then to bring Indomitus to a competitive 2,000 point list, I guess. 1 box of Primaris Infiltrators. We've talked how we can make 2 great squads out of them. And if you did that, if we made 1 Infiltrator and 1 Incursor, you'd be at 225 points. I think that's a great place to start. I swear by Infiltrators, but that's just my playstyle. I really play defensive, I guess. Like, and it's very weird how I play, I guess. Like, I play where, like, first turn I almost do nothing, right? Like, I just move forward and hide and sort of wait for, like, an explosive turn, right? In last night's game, the explosive turn didn't actually happen in turn 2. I almost played super passive in turn 2 as well. So I run 2 squads of Infiltrators, but I think unless you're playing in like super competitive and you have a defined style, and also sometimes if you've not played a lot of games, you'll sort of get you'll get the red thirst and you'll want to just jump in. You'll be like, oh yeah, I can get those guys, I can totally make that, and you'll jump in too early maybe, and you'll not get the results you want. I've done that plenty of times. You've jumped a character into something that you thought you could kill and then being killed, right? So maybe there's a bit of learning to do there. So I think get a box of the. I think the box is called Infiltrators, but it makes 5 Infiltrators and it makes 5 Incursors. It gives you that one squad of Infiltrators to pretty much shore up the backfield with 0 risk to you. No one can deep strike and charge you. Even if they have like Meltaguns dropping in, or like those Infernal Pistols from Sisters of Battle dropping in, they can't get the range because they have to be out of 12. So, and again, if they do drop something in that can shoot you, you can smoke screen. So the Infiltrators are amazing for holding your backfield. The Incursors let you, like I said, start some units on an objective in the middle of the table and basically screen out the enemy to begin the game. And Incursors are not bad in melee either. They have like -1 combat blades. So if you end up charging, they're still going to do fine. I believe if you charge, it's still 4 attacks on the Sergeant and 3 on the regular guys. So you're still looking at like 16 attacks at -1. And again, you'll against other infantry, you'll probably wound on 3s because of our Red Thirst rule. So generally very good squad to pick up. Death Company, we talked about this. I would make 5 Death Company with the Thunderhammer and the Bolters and Chainswords. That's 140 points. I would think of them as a throwaway unit. Their only mission in the game is to clear out the enemy's backfield. If they have like, they have an artillery tank back there or something, so that's where the Thunderhammer would come in. If they have just a weak unit sitting on an objective, then you're doing what I've just told you, what you can stop with the Infiltrators to the enemy. And if you feel that they can't, obviously you can deep strike from turn 2, and turn 3 is your last turn. But if in turn 2 or 3, if you feel like they're going to be too exposed, they're going to get shot off the table, you can just happily deploy them in cover, and then next turn jump forward to 12 and almost guarantee the charge, right? I mean, I guess there's a bit of discretion there, but if you don't feel like you need to get them off the objective right now, then I've played games where I've just been like, I'll just deep strike these guys behind a building. They're totally safe behind that building. Next turn, they can jump forward 12, and then they have a 4-inch charge or something to make, right? Rather than try and put them somewhere exposed and be like, right, we're just going to bank on making our... you would be 9 away, so it's normally an 8-inch charge.
Sure.
Which you need from deep striking. And do you know what? An 8-inch charge, even with a reroll, because I rerolled an 8-inch charge last night and I failed it, and then I got killed by a Demon Prince and the Death Company actually did nothing. It was just a bad map, I guess, I was on last night, but I mean, that's my point, right? Like, that can happen. So,
sure.
I guess you have to think about it tactically. The reason I did it last night was that my enemy was using that secondary while we stand, we fight, right? So if I killed his unit, I literally denied him 5 victory points. So I felt it was worth the risk. But, sometimes it isn't. And then we talked as well about how we could make 2 boxes of Sanguinary Guard, would essentially make you 9 Sanguinary Guard and the 1 Ancient. That would give you the option to run the Ancient if you want. Right now, I think he's point overcosted. However, these things swing. Like maybe this edition, the Sanguinary Ancient gets no play, and then next edition Games Workshop will make him good again. Or vice. Maybe some people are still thinking he's good because you can give him a relic that gives you +2 to your movement. I don't really rate it. I feel like with the 13-inch move and then the D6 from advance, I feel like we can usually jump cover to cover fine with the Sanguinary Guard. I don't really think +2 inches makes a huge difference. Excuse me, maybe it makes a little bit of a difference on making a charge roll if you jump forward, but typically I don't feel like I need it at the moment anyway. But, I mean, the 2 boxes would let you make it. And then, yeah, I mean, like, for a HQ, I highly recommend Chaplain on a bike or a Captain on a bike. And, I mean, I would just swap that with the one you've got from the Indomitus set. Like, almost just retire your Chaplain from the Indomitus set. Or cut him off at his waist and stick him onto an Outrider, because that's what I did with my one.
That's a very definite possibility.
And then, yeah, I mean, if you want to keep your Blade Guard and you want to run Mephiston, before the Librarian Dreadnought, before everything changed with 9th edition, I was running Mephiston and Impulsor. I really liked him in an Impulsor with like a squad of Assault Intercessors. The Impulsor just moves forward 14. Then it advances +1 and a d6, so potentially the Impulsor just moves forward 21 inches in turn 1, and it just sits on objective, and it is a bullet magnet. Like I said, it's good to have some bullet magnets. They think, oh shit, Mephiston's in there, we want to kill that. they waste some fire in that. Your other jump pack units get to go where they want to go, and then if they don't kill it, I mean, it was when I was running, the Impulsor had a 4+ invulnerable save, so it was much less likely to kill it. Now it's a 5+, so I mean they can, but as long as you've got enough units in there that Mephiston doesn't die, and you're never going to roll 6 ones if it gets blown up. You can roll a couple of ones max. Mephiston and the Assault Intercessors jump out, and they can definitely do some work for you. So you could run an Impulsor with Assault Intercessors, or some of those Blade Guard veterans would definitely work in there with Mephiston. Maybe if you want to keep one of the other Primaris characters, like the Captain or the Lieutenant, you could maybe do that as well. So although right now I prefer Librarian Dreadnought, still think Mephiston's an okay character. Still think he has uses. He's maybe just a bit better at killing infantry and stuff now, as opposed to before when he was probably better at killing armor.
Okay.
So I mean, if you just wanted to have a big evil psyker in the middle of their infantry, just indiscriminately slaughtering them, that's something that you can definitely do. And then the last thing I wanted to say was, I really think the Librarian Dreadnought or the Redemptor Dreadnought, one of these two, I think, gives you a great, gives you a decent base of fire. I mean, I guess the Redemptor has the more ways to be used as a base of fire, with the ability to do the reroll ones. But the Librarian Dreadnought is going to be more survivable, and typically enemies are going to they're either going to try and deal with a Leviathan, or they're going to ignore it. And if they ignore it, then it can just walk around the game all game indiscriminately, killing things. And I've definitely had games where that has happened. And I've armed previously with the rules, it used to run with 2 heavy flamers, the Storm Cannon, and the Claw. And the Storm Cannon was good for, killing 3 or 4 units out of an infantry squad. The Heavy Flamer's obviously good against if it ever gets charged. Mm-hmm. And then the Claw, very good at anti-armor and also anti-character. I think in one of the games I had him kill Rabuti Gilliman. He just overkilled him so hard. It was just alright, I've just wounded Gilliman 6 times because I'm wounding him on 2s. And I think the Siege Claw in the last edition got to reroll wounds against infantry. I think they maybe removed that now. But yeah, so a flat 3 damage on the Claw. If a character fails a few of them, they're dead, right? Not many characters have more than 6 wounds. So, but you could say that about the Redemptor as well. But the Leviathan, I think, does its job in that, I often talk about a distraction card effects. It's just a big distraction. And I would just march it right down the battlefield, straight forward towards the enemy. It can smoke screen again, so you can make a -1 to hit. And I maybe play my Redemptor a little bit safer, and I may even go as far as using my Psyker to put a invulnerable save onto my Redemptor. I've done that before, and it has actually been the difference between the Redemptor dying or not. Giving him that early game. I wouldn't do it every turn, but just maybe turn 1 or something, or turn 2, where he's marching forward, and he's going to be a target because, hey, he's got a plasma gun and onslaught cannon and a rocket pods and a claw. Just give him the invulnerable save for a turn or something, just to be if they are going to shoot him, it's going to be that bit more difficult to kill him. So I think, I guess these are my recommended first purchases. I wouldn't say maybe all of them, but if we did something like that, then we'd move on to a 2,000 point list where we could keep your Primaris Captain. We'd probably replace the other 2 HQ with the Chaplain and the Bike and the Library and Dreadnought. Bear in mind, this is up to you. I still, like I said, I don't think Mephiston's a bad pick here. 2 Assault Intercessor squads, I'd probably use them together in the battlefield to push the midfield or something, or push a flank. The Infiltrators to hold your own, the Incursors to maybe try and zone out somewhere you don't really want the enemy being, like I said, a side objective or a midfield objective, because you can deploy in concealed positions. And keep, I generally actually quite like the Blade Guard veterans. I think they're a very strong unit, and they're very good at just killing 2-wood infantry as well. So you could keep your Blade Guard veterans, but they would be foot slogging it, so I'd probably put them with these Assault Intercessors, and they'd all be slogging it, from cover to cover maybe in the first time, just advancing, trying to get forward, maybe to battle out in the midfield. Death Company, the throwaway unit at the back. The Sanguinary Guard held sort of in a defensive counter-charging position, right? So,
Sure.
let me put a picture up again, and it was of the game that I played against Corn. Maybe you saw this one on the channel. So, in my turn 1, I think this is maybe like turn 3 of this game, the Sanguinary Guard were all deployed right in here, completely out of line of sight, and I think I went first and they didn't move, right? They just stayed completely there. So all the Corn forces come running up the middle, because they have to get to this distraction Carnifex, essentially, because they need to get it killed, and a lot of the Corn stuff was melee. So I let him push everything into the middle, and then I decide who I fight. So I make the charge, or I jump out and I make the charge. And sometimes it feels really wrong, because this game I actually picked all fronts, and on turn 1 I had nothing even close to his side of the battlefield. So I just gave up 3 victory points in turn 1 and just said, you know what, I don't. And my objective in turn 1 is to be positioned where I know, like, Corn Berserkers get to fight 3 times if they fight twice, and then you can pay CP to have them fight a 3rd time. If they charge any of my units, they're going to delete them, right? Like, I just cannot be in a position where the Berserkers charge me first. So that was a good example of it. And then on this game, the Sanguinary Guard jumped into this terrain in the middle. So this is area terrain. So this is essentially a forest. So this would give them +1 to hit if they're in there. Sorry, -1 to hit, right? No. Sorry, +1 to their armor save is what I meant to say. So in this forest, essentially, the Sanguinary Guard have a 1-up save. So again, I think they deployed in here, super hidden, and in turn 1 they just advanced into more cover. So it's like, if you are going to shoot my Sanguinary Guard, then we're going to be saving on 1-ups. And again, like, from that position there, then I can pretty much dictate where I jump. It's kind of, like, this is actually kind of a funny photo, because, like, this battle is going on and, like, he has nothing. But this was actually quite early in the battle. He had so much deep strike stuff coming in. Maybe I'll get that battle up in the channel soonish, because that was actually played with the new codex. And then I think you can keep your Outriders, and that would be fine. You also said you had Inceptors. Again, I think you could keep them, and I think you could use them sort of in a similar way to the Death Company, where they drop down, you pay the 1 CP for Descent of the Angel, and you try and clear out a unit of infantry, or something in the backfield. Or another thing that I don't do enough of, but I think I want to do more of, is Inceptors now are super good if you pay that 1 CP so that they hit on 2s. So you could basically, if you drop them down next to your captain, for example, and you give them the ability to reroll 1s, then you could just fire them all on high power. 2 damage a shot, so you just delete a unit of 2 wound infantry very, very easily. And then and then lastly, get to keep your Eradicators. I don't know about which will be better, the Heavy Melter Rifles or the Melty Rifles, but we'll find out on Friday. I mean, I guess they're a bit situational because they move about, and obviously, because they're heavy, if you use the heavy ones, then if you move and shoot, you get -1 to hit, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how often it's going to come up, but I think they have an ability where if they don't move, they can actually fire twice. But I think they're only range 24, so I'm not sure if that would really happen very much.
Yeah, no, I think I was looking at that rule earlier just because I didn't actually realise that the multi-part kit for the Eradicators isn't out yet, but I thought the total obliteration rule was for... Hey Jason, thanks for subscribing. I thought the total annihilation, it's called total obliteration. In your shooting phase, each time this unit is selected to shoot it, if it has not advanced this turn, it can unleash total obliteration. If it does, if it does select 1 enemy unit model, and this unit can shoot twice this phase, that they can only make attacks that target that enemy unit, right? One of these models can take a multi-melta, so I didn't realise this. I thought it was just for the melter rifles, so no, I don't think it is. I think if you arm one of them with a multi-melta, the multi-melta will be able to shoot twice as well. So, I mean, I guess that, like you said, that makes the whole squad potentially heavy, so it would be -1 to hit, but then you are going to be able to shoot twice. If they are next to your Redemptor and they're re-rolling their 1s, though, that's still a 75% chance to hit, because if you think about it, a 4+ is a 50% chance. And then, actually, maybe it's not 75, but it's still solid.
4+, it's really close to 75%.
Yeah.
Because it's... No, actually, it might be, because it's 1/2 plus 1/2 times 1/2. So it's...
at least 4. D6. Reroll 1 is D6. Please. Yeah, it's. This is why I do stuff in top there.
5/8.
Yeah, you're right. I think 5/8. So it's still pretty decent when you get like.
Oh, sure.
So everything can shoot twice, right? So your multi-melter would do 4 shots, and the other rifles would do 4 shots. So it's 8 shots. So you're going to hit like 5 melta-guns. Still pretty damn powerful. So, I mean, if we were going to, do you know what? You could probably I imagine a multi-melter is going to cost 25 points. So that could actually, you'd have to buy the multi-part kit or do a conversion. But that would round out those a squad of Eradicators really nicely. Yeah, it's actually only 10 points for a multi-melta and Eradicator squad. Actually, that's pretty cheap considering it can shoot 4 times. Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess questions on this as a potential first 2,000 point list. I mean, I don't think it's like, I'm sure there's. The way I like to work a list though is like I would like to get something like this table ready. And then play, and then you'll figure out your own weaknesses, or you'll be like, yeah, do you know what? These guys just aren't cutting it for me, or
right.
I have too many.
I
troops.
appreciate the suggestions with the Blade Guard because I've played a couple of games, and that is, they're just walking up the board, and people love to unload on them. So I wasn't sure if maybe I should put a sanguinary priest or an apothecary with them, but I like that idea of the impulsor because it just gets them up there into the action where they want to be.
Yeah,
without taking shots.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the unit that I touched on earlier, the Vanguard Veterans, they are basically Blade Guards with jump packs, right? Like they're just are Blade Guard Veterans. I actually have still not built mine. They're 3 wounds per model, right? Yeah. So Vanguard Veterans are 2 wounds per model, but you have the jump packs. And I think they're slightly less points, maybe like 10 points less. So it's probably very similar. But yeah, I mean, the enemy is going to find some targets, right? Like, you'll never be in a game where you don't find any targets. So if they're finding those Storm Shield guys, maybe it's okay. If everything else is getting where it needs to be and doing what it needs to do, right?
Sure.
But yeah, an impulsor, to me anyway, like I own an impulsor, and I think if I was going to build my Blade Guard Veterans, then that would be how I would be delivering them. And I think personally I'd probably deliver a whole squad. When I say a whole squad, I guess I mean 5, because I feel like 5 plus a character in the impulsor to buff them again. Up until recently, Mephiston was the character of choice in the impulsor for me. But, I mean, like, the Primaris Captain is not a bad choice in an Impulsor either. Obviously, he is very survivable, and the ability to reroll hits or wounds on the Blade Guard would be very strong as well, because I feel like they're going to be wounding pretty decent with their, it's Strength 5 plus 1 to your wound rolls, so your wound roll is going to be pretty decent anyway, so... yeah, and then, I guess last slide then. So how do you do this from Indomitus? I did put down Inceptors there because I wasn't sure. I assumed your ones weren't the Plasma ones, and it was mainly Plasma ones we were talking about. But, yeah, so, I mean, and I guess I've said £30, but you need to buy 2 boxes of these guys. So, I guess it'd be about $250 if you just wanted to instantly do that, but would that make you competitive? I feel like... I feel like this list would do decent against a lot of things, right? Like, and I think it's starting to build towards the Blood Angels' strengths. Like if I needed to tweak this into a more, like a really competitive list, then I would be like, right, we need to lose one of these to get your Impulsor. We probably want to replace this captain with a Jump Pack Captain or a Bite Captain to make it more survivable. But, and then maybe just make sure that these are... I think this is the cost of regular Inceptors. Plasma ones are 50 points per head. So then maybe combine this into one large Assault Intercessor squad. So it's like an 8-man or a 9-man. Remember, for 2 CP you can you can
attack.
attack twice with Assault Intercessor. So having a big score to them is actually fine, I think.
Okay.
You know, like if you just need 19 more points for something, then just
Sure.
merge them together and drop it like that. So I mean, there's always going to be a bit like one of the fun things I find in the game is like juggling those last 20 points, right?
Yeah. Where can you just slide things around just a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you're forever just making a tweak. You know, you drop. I mean, that's why I like to say the Sanguinary Guard could be 7 to 9. In that, like, if you really needed 30 points, I don't know, like, it was the difference between that and all these guys walking on foot, then I'd be like, yeah, you can afford to drop one Sanguinary Guard and run an 8 or something if it means all these other guys can do
Okay.
that. Okay, any questions? And I guess if there's time, we'll do a couple of questions on chat. It's like midnight, so I need to go pretty soon, but we'll take a couple of questions from chat. Is there anything that was that useful? Anything else that I can?
This has been really useful. I really appreciate the tactics also, like not just here are the units, but here's how to use them. I really appreciate that. That's going to be especially the information about like the sort of throwaway death company, the how to use the Sanguinary Guard, how to use the veteran Vanguard if I go with them. That's really helpful. So that way I don't get a bunch of Sanguinary Guard, just throw them out there assuming that their 2+ is going to be great and then lose them like that, you know?
Yeah, a few editions ago it felt like that, but yeah, I think something that like, I mean, even I forget, I guess, is like, we are Space Marines, we can shoot things, you know, we can shoot things pretty effectively, and it's just about biding your time and yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I plan on doing on the channel in the near future is to try and to go over like where I'm deploying and why. Do you know what's funny? All these pictures, my friends need to get better at playing because all these pictures just show all my units on the board, and it's like, well, there's 4 Nurglings, there's 1 Death Guard here, you know. But yeah, I mean, I guess this was a good example in that, like, you can see like there's a full strength Sanguinary Guard up here, and look at my gold guys. Like they have taken all, like nothing else in this army is really. Nothing else is taken it. Like it's just the gold guys. Like I lost maybe 3 or 4. These are my Vanguard veterans. Sorry, the guys with the red helms. So I've lost a few of them, and there's a wound counter there as well. So they took all the fire in turn 1, I guess, and then these Sanguinary Guard here were actually all hidden behind this building, and he was deployed on this side. So it was like there was no line of sight against them. The bike was over here as well, and then we just jump into the middle. This little white thing in the map is the middle, and then. You know, we jumped in and did our charges. Meanwhile, I believe this Death Company came down at the back here. And, I mean, there's some nice... You know, like, the reason they're this side is just for my all front. So it's just like I'm just getting into all the fronts again. So, yeah, I'm going to do a video, I hope, where I can break down the sort of overview of the map stuff as well. Maybe make that even better as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely tune in for that one.
Yeah. Pedrock's saying you need to get your overhead top-down camera centered. Yeah, my overhead top-down camera is on a rig that I made myself for about $20, Pedrock. So if you want to send me like, I think it's cost like $300 for a proper overhead rig, then yeah, I'm happy to, I'm happy to use it. But until further notice, we're on the £20 ghetto rig. Okay. Yeah, then do you know what? It is late here, and yeah, I just want to. I'm just going to call the stream there. Hopefully,
sure. Well, I'm sure if any other questions come up, I'll go ahead and tag you in the Facebook page or hit you up in the comments.
Yeah, please do, and please to everybody that was in the chat tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out. I know I didn't get to chat, but yeah, hit me up in the Facebook group, and on Sunday stream this week, I'll definitely have time to take more questions from chat. Would you consider Primaris only BA viable in the slightest? If not, is there a chapter better suited for it? I don't I think a mix is the strongest at the moment. I think until Primaris get jump packs, Blood Angels we need our jump pack units. Like our army, it hinges so much on our close combat. Like one of the objectives in the Space Marine book is you get points if you kill units and shooting, and like I'm just never going to pick that. I think it's like you get a point if you kill a unit with the Devastator Doctrine active, or you get points if you kill units with the Tactical, and then you get points if you kill units with Assault. It's just like it's just not something you would ever pick as Blood Angels. You just want to score in it. So yeah, I don't think Primaris only works for Blood Angels at the moment. But yeah, okay. Yeah, so I guess everybody, thanks so much for hanging out. I hope this was useful. I will do my best to answer more questions next time. And Nick, thank you very much for your help with some of the Maths Hammer stuff that we've been doing on the channel. And yeah, maybe we can do another one of these in the future. So
sure.
Cool. All right. All right. Yeah, so that'll be it. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you very much, guys. Peace.
Bye, everyone.